Once upon a time, there were a little lass who lived in a village right next to some woods. Every time she went out, little lass wore a red riding cloak. So it were no wonder that everyone at village called her Little Red Riding Hood, except them as didn't, 'cause there's always has to be some, ain't there? One grand sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood asked her mam if she could go see her grandma, 'cause she had noan clapped her een on her for ages and ages like. Now then, that's known as daft as they looks, lass. That's a right good idea, her mother said. I mun take her some snap. I get right worried she doesn't eat much. She looked clammed last time I saw her. So together they cobbled up some snap to take to her grandma, dripping tea cakes, a bit of spice wise to chow on, and some parking for afters with a bit of Wensleydale. What about summat to sup, ma'am? Asked Little Red Riding Hood. Ah, take this, her mother replied, a bit of Ben Shaw's dandelion and burdock, and make sure they don't be putting your grubby mitts on it, don't way. When basket were full, little lass put her red cloak on and kissed her mother good-bye. As she shot off, her man were thinking it were about time to take her to Primark to get a new kite, 'cause she was sick of seeing her in the same one all the time. Before Red Riding Hood had got out at garden gate, her mother shouted to her, "And don't be dawdling up way, no speaking to anyone that looks funny. Them woods is dangerous." "Stop thee mithering, ma'am, I'll be right," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Oi, watch out how thou spakes to me, you cheeky little beggar. I'll be telling thee father," shouted her mother, but Little Red Riding Hood had vanished. On the way, Little Red Riding Hood spotted some pretty flowers in woods, but sometimes she could be a right daft wazzock, and she'd forgetting all about what her mam had said. There she was, just licking about, watching buzzards flitting around, and listening to frogs croaking away at pond. She were enjoying the scent that much, she didn't notice a dark shadow approaching, out at trees behind her. Suddenly a wolf appeared right next to her. Now then, I just want to say at this point that you and me would probably have been off by now. But no, she had to stick around, didn't she? Well, when they thinks about it, she had to, otherwise the story wouldn't have been written, would it? Now then, what's they doing out, lass? Wolf asked, his friendliest voice. I'm bound to see me grandma. She lives at t'other side of woods near t' brook, Little Red Riding Hood replied. Then she looked at time on her watch, and suddenly realised how much of a wazzock she'd been, and shot off as fast as she could towards her grandma's, worried she were going to be late. Crafty old wolf at me and Tom knew exactly where that was, and took a shortcut down a snicket. But Tom Wolf got there, he were out of breath, puffing and wheezing. When it got his breath again, he knocked on the door of Grandma's house. "Come in, love," shouted Grandma. "Do us open. How were you, and that something had happened to thee?" Little did she know it wasn't Little Red Riding Hood. Wolf let him send in, but left door open. Poor Grandma felt a right draught blowing up her night dress. "But would it thoil?" shouted Grandma. "Well, they'll never believe what happened next. That damn wolf ate up Grandma like she were an Andrew Jones mate pa. I just want to say, before we go on, that it's each to their own these days, so we won't be making any judgments. But does they know what Wolf did next? He started trying on Grandma's clates. Aye, they'd heard right, Grandma's clates. Who'd have thought it? Any road, whatever he thought he looked like, he looked a right tatey. So there he was, dressed up in a nightgown. A nightgown that took his fancy like, a frilly sleeping cap, and for good measure, slatted some of Grandma's perfume behind his lug oils. A few minutes later, Red Riding Hood had caught up and knocked on the door. Wolf jumped to bed, pulled covers over his big long neb. "Who's there?" he called in a cackly voice. "It's me, you numpty, Little Red Riding Hood." "Ooh, Gran, come in, love, and put wood it thoil," croaked Wolf. When Little Red Riding Hood managed to get her backside in and saw her grandma, she couldn't help but puzzle over what were in front of her own een. "Grandma, at her right? That sounds a bit weird," she asked. "Oh, I'm ailing a bit, love," squeaked Wolf, adding a cough just for effect. "But, Grandma, what big lug oils has getting?" said Little Red Riding Hood, as she sidled up to bed. "The better to listen to thee, love," replied Wolf. "But, Grandma, what big een thou's getten," said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to see thee, we love," replied Wolf. "But, Grandma, look at sight of thee ashes. How does them fit in the cake oil?" said Little Red Riding Hood, her voice beginning to shake a bit. "The better to hate thee, love," growled Wolf, and he loped out at bed and began to chat little lass around house. Now we've already said that Little Red Riding Hood wanted a full shilling, but how long did it take for her to realise it wanted Grandma, eh? And her mother were right when she used to say that braid of hers were neither use nor ornament. Anyhow, she ran across the living room and out at door, shouting, "Help! Wolf!" with a voice like a foghorn. A woodsman who were out chubbing had heard all commotion and thought, "What the devil?" He ran towards cottage as fast as his legs would take him. He collared Wolf and made him gip out poor old Grandma, who didn't know her eared from her elbow at this point, but thankfully was still in one piece. "Oh, Grandma, I'm glad there's all right," sobbed Little Red Riding Hood. "I'll never speak to funny-looking folk or leck about in wood again." "Stop this skriking, lass, or I'll give thee something to skrike about," said Grandma. "Thou's learned a lesson, so let's say no more about it." And a lot of 'em lived happily ever after. Now then, that's all right, of course, but I bet thou's wondering what happened to Wolf, aren't there? Well, this version of the story says that Woodsman knocked Wolf out and took him far away, so he won't bother anyone again. But this is a Huddersfield version, which means that really Woodsman gave him a right good kicking, enough that all his gnashes fell out, so that all he could do in future were give someone a nasty suck. Now then, I bet that told him.